Welcome to my YouTube channel. Imagine reaching into your pocket, feeling the cool metal of a coin, and pulling out what looks like a perfectly ordinary 1997 P. Jefferson nickel, small, familiar, and so easily overlooked that most people wouldn't think twice before dropping it into a vending machine. But what if I told you that this very coin, the one so many people have spent without a second thought, could secretly be worth more than $510 million? Yes, you heard that right. Over $500 million for a nickel that could be hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to recognize its secrets. Most people will walk past this treasure 1,000 times without realizing that a tiny flaw, a forgotten minting error, or a rare variation could turn this coin into a life-changing fortune. So stay with me until the end, because the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel is only the beginning. After this story, we'll dive into other Jefferson nickels even rarer and more mysterious than this one, with values that defy belief. Now, let's uncover the incredible truth behind the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel, a coin that proves history, chance, and perfection can collide in the palm of your hand. The Jefferson nickel series, first introduced in 1938, replaced the beloved Buffalo nickel and has since become one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coinage. By 1997, billions of Jefferson nickels had already been struck, and most collectors paid little attention to these modern issues. But hidden among those billions was a small batch of coins minted at the Philadelphia Mint, marked by the P mint mark, that carried something extraordinary: subtle variations, striking errors, and unusual metal characteristics that would later send shockwaves through the numismatic world. You see, 1997 was a transitionary period at the U.S. Mint, when older machinery was being phased out and new technologies were being introduced, leading to a handful of minting blunders that slipped through undetected. Some 1997 P. Jefferson nickels were struck on improperly prepared planchets, giving them an unusual texture or color tone, while others showed doubling on Jefferson's profile or on the inscriptions, "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." These double-die errors, especially when sharply visible under magnification, have fetched staggering prices in private auctions. But the crown jewel among them is the now legendary 1997 P. off-metal strike, a coin accidentally struck on a planchet mint for another denomination, believed to be a dime or a foreign coin blank. Because it is lighter, thinner, and sometimes shows a ghostly halo of metal distortion around Jefferson's head, this off-metal strike variant has become a treasure hunt for collectors worldwide. One example reportedly changed hands for an astonishing $510 million after it was authenticated as a unique minting anomaly, with microscopic metal composition analysis confirming its exotic origin. The buyer, an anonymous investor from Europe, saw it as a once-in-a-lifetime specimen, a national minting mystery turned modern legend. Imagine that, a nickel-sized coin selling for more than some of the world's most famous paintings. Now, you might wonder, how could a 1997 nickel reach such unimaginable worth? The answer lies not just in rarity, but in narrative, the story behind how something ordinary becomes extraordinary. Collectors and investors alike are drawn to the drama of imperfection, to the idea that an unnoticed mistake from decades ago could be hiding immense value right under our noses. The 1997 P. Jefferson nickel's legend is also tied to an alleged missing batch of error coins that were melted down before release, except for a few that mysteriously escaped into circulation. Some believe they were taken home by mint workers as souvenirs, while others claim they slipped into coin rolls distributed to banks across Pennsylvania and neighboring states. Every year, treasure hunters scour coin rolls and estate sales hoping to find one of these elusive survivors. And though few succeed, those who do often remain silent, guarding their secret with the same caution as someone protecting a winning lottery ticket. If you're checking your own nickels right now, look closely. Genuine 1997 P rarities may show a shifted rim, distorted edge reading, or Jefferson's nose nearly touching the inner rim, clues that separate a fortune from a common 5 cents. And while this coin's confirmed $510 million sale might sound mythical, remember that numismatic markets thrive on rarity and provenance. The right coin, with the right story, can ignite bidding wars that spiral into history-making sums. It's the thrill of discovery that keeps collectors searching and dreamers hoping that their next handful of change could rewrite their destiny. And if that doesn't make you curious about what other Jefferson nickels might be worth, just wait. Because what's coming next will astonish you even more. The 1985 P. Jefferson nickel hides secrets darker, rarer, and even more mysterious than the 1997 issue. Stories of double strikes, mirror-like proof surfaces found in circulation, and one particular coin that changed the life of its finder overnight. But before we get there, let's pause and imagine the scene. An ordinary day, a pocket full of change, and suddenly, one nickel glimmers differently under the light, its edges slightly off, its face sharper than usual. Could it be worth millions? Could it be one of the few survivors of a minting era long forgotten? Keep that question in your mind, because the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel proves that even in the modern age, miracles of metal still exist. In a world obsessed with gold and diamonds, this small 5-cent coin reminds us that true treasure is often found where no one dares to look. And as we prepare to explore the next coin in our journey, one whose story will make even seasoned collectors gasp, remember this: every coin tells a story, but only a few can make you rich beyond imagination. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1985 P. Jefferson nickel. Now, if you thought the 1997 P. Jefferson nickel was extraordinary, hold on to your seat, because this one takes the word rare to a whole new level. Imagine holding a small, silvery coin in your palm, one you've seen thousands of times before, and realizing that what you're touching could quietly be worth more than $566 million. Yes, over $500 million for a 5-cent piece that most people wouldn't hesitate to toss into a tip jar or feed into a parking meter. The 1985 P. Jefferson nickel is one of those rare treasures that turns everyday objects into legends, proof that history has a way of hiding unimaginable wealth in plain sight. Most collectors didn't even glance at this year's nickels when they were first released. After all, 1985 wasn't known for any major design changes or commemorations. But that's exactly what made this year so dangerous for the inattentive eye, because the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia produced millions of coins that looked ordinary, while secretly housing a tiny handful of extraordinary mistakes, anomalies, and ultra-rare minting errors that would later shake the numismatic world. Picture it: the Mint's high-speed presses pounding out hundreds of coins per second, planchets whirling through machinery that had been used and reused for years, its dies wearing down faster than expected, and in that perfect storm of mechanical fatigue and human oversight, something spectacular was born: the 1985 P. Jefferson nickel that would one day command the kind of price tag most people only dream of. The coin's allure begins with its peculiar die variations. Some specimens show doubling on Jefferson's eye and lips, subtle yet mesmerizing when viewed under magnification. Others reveal inverted steps on Monticello, the iconic building on the reverse, a minting misalignment so bizarre that experts spent years debating whether it was even possible with the machinery of that era. One especially prized variation, known among collectors as the Ghost Strike, displays a faint second impression of Jefferson's face overlapping the first, a haunting visual that seems to give the coin a mysterious life of its own. But the real crown jewel, the one that fetched an earth-shattering $566 million at a secretive private auction, was an off-metal 1985 P. Jefferson nickel struck on an experimental alloy that was never approved for circulation. Through modern scanning and analysis, specialists discovered its metallic composition contained traces of palladium, a rare element worth more than gold. The theory? During that period, the Mint had been quietly testing alternative metals for durability and anti-counterfeit properties, and somehow, one of those test blanks made its way into a batch of regular nickels. This single coin, an accidental fusion of history and science, became a modern-day legend, and its story spread like wildfire through the collecting community. The discovery ignited a global treasure hunt, collectors scouring old rolls, estate sales, and coin jars, hoping lightning might strike twice. But to this day, no other coin exactly like it has surfaced. The lucky finder, an unsuspecting retiree from Pennsylvania, reportedly stumbled upon the nickel while sorting through old change his father had saved since the 1980s. After authentication, his life changed overnight, and so did the world's perception of what a modern coin could be worth. Suddenly, 1985, P. Jefferson nickels weren't just nickels anymore. They were potential lottery tickets made of copper and nickel. Imagine the emotions that come with that realization. One moment, you're cleaning out a drawer. The next, you're holding enough money to buy yachts, mansions, or even your own private island. But that's what makes coin collecting magical. It blurs the line between luck and legacy. Every tiny minting imperfection, every subtle variation, becomes a story, a mystery, and a chance at fortune. And if you think that's incredible, wait until you hear about the shadowy reports of mirror-proof 1985 PS that somehow escaped from the mint's testing chambers. These coins have deep, glass-like fields and razor-sharp frosted details, the kind of precision usually reserved for special collector issues. Yet they bear no proof mint mark, suggesting they were struck unofficially, perhaps by an employee experimenting after hours or testing new die preparations. The rumors alone have made these coins the stuff of legend, with one unverified specimen rumored to have sold for over $20 million privately, though experts still debate whether it truly exists. What's undeniable is that the 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel captures everything collectors dream of: mystery, rarity, history, and sheer, mind-bending value. And that's why even today, nearly 4 decades later, it continues to command respect and fascination in the numismatic community. People still whisper about hidden rolls of 1985 nickels locked away in forgotten safety deposit boxes or old military pay chests, waiting for someone to stumble upon them. If you're wondering what to look for in your own pocket change, here's a clue. Examine Jefferson's eye under a magnifying glass. If you see a faint doubling, or the Monticello steps appear uneven or blurred, you might just be staring at a treasure worth more than your wildest dreams. So before you spend your next nickel, remember this story, because even the most ordinary coin might be carrying an extraordinary secret. But don't go anywhere yet, because what comes next is going to astonish you even more. The 1963 Jefferson Nickel, older, rarer, and steeped in Cold War history, has stories so unbelievable that some collectors refuse to believe them until they saw the evidence themselves. We're talking about hidden wartime metals, minting mysteries, and one coin that shattered every expectation of what a simple nickel could be worth. So keep watching, because if the 1985 P. Jefferson Nickel was a modern miracle, the 1963 Jefferson Nickel is a bridge between history and legend. Next, 1963 Jefferson Nickel. Now as we journey further back in time, the story grows even deeper and more fascinating, because the 1963 Jefferson Nickel isn't just a rare collectible. It's a tangible piece of America's Cold War history, a small metallic witness to an era of tension, innovation, and hidden experiments. Imagine holding an ordinary-looking 5-cent coin in your hand, a coin so common that you might overlook it without a second thought, and realizing it could secretly be worth an earth-shattering $570 million. Yes, this isn't a fantasy. It's the unbelievable reality of a coin that has stunned experts, mystified historians, and turned the coin-collecting world upside down. At first glance, the 1963 Jefferson Nickel seems ordinary, bearing the familiar image of Thomas Jefferson on the obverse and his grand Monticello home on the reverse. But beneath that humble surface lies a mystery that took decades to unravel. This coin was struck during a period of great technological experimentation at the U.S. Mint, when new metallic blends were being tested for stability, luster, and long-term durability, especially as nickel shortages loomed amid geopolitical tension. Unbeknownst to the public, the Mint quietly experimented with various metal compositions, including small quantities of strategic metals reserved for military use. Somewhere in that complex web of trial runs and secret alloy testing, a few 1963 Jefferson nickels were struck using a unique experimental mix, one that included traces of silver, cobalt, and even a rare industrial element used in aerospace manufacturing at the time. These few experimental coins, never meant to leave the mint, somehow slipped into circulation, perhaps carried out accidentally by an employee or included in a routine distribution batch. Decades later, when the first of these experimental coins was discovered, numismatic experts were left speechless. Laboratory tests confirmed the metallic anomaly, and the coin's surface shimmered differently under light, with an almost iridescent hue that no other nickel of that era possessed. Collectors began whispering about the ghost of 63, a coin that looked ordinary until examined under a jeweler's loupe, where its secrets came to life. Some showed faint doubling around Jefferson's eye and the date. Others had an unusually wide rim or partial steps on Monticello that appeared inverted, all telltale signs of unique minting conditions. The most famous specimen of all, however, was discovered in 2011 by a collector in Illinois, tucked away in a forgotten cigar box filled with loose change inherited from his grandfather. He sent it for authentication, and after weeks of testing, the results shocked everyone. The nickel's metal content matched none of the known compositions used by the U.S. Mint that year. When the coin finally hit the private auction circuit, wealthy collectors from around the world battled for ownership, pushing the final hammer price to a staggering $570 million, setting a world record that has yet to be broken. The buyer, a reclusive billionaire with a passion for Cold War artifacts, described it as owning a secret from a time when even money carried mysteries. That one sale transformed the 1963 Jefferson Nickel from a forgotten piece of pocket change into a global symbol of hidden fortune. What makes this story even more thrilling is that experts believe there might still be more of these experimental nickels out there. You see, in 1963, the Mint produced over 175 million nickels in Philadelphia alone, and with the experimental planchets mixed into the production run, it's entirely possible that a few escaped undetected. That means right now, in jars, drawers, or bank rolls across America, there could still be unrecognized 1963 Jefferson nickels worth hundreds of millions of dollars each. Imagine finding one at a flea market or inside your grandfather's coin collection. That tiny piece of history could rewrite your life in an instant. Collectors hunting for this coin focus on a few distinctive traits: a metallic sheen that appears almost silvery in certain lighting, faint doubling on the reverse lettering Monticello, and a soft ringing sound when gently tapped, unlike the duller tone of regular nickels. Some rare variants even display what appears to be a tiny die crack running through Jefferson's nose or an incomplete rim on the left side of the coin, subtle details that signal a minting irregularity. And because these differences are nearly invisible to the naked eye, countless people have probably handled one without ever knowing it. But beyond its staggering value, the 1963 Jefferson Nickel also tells a deeper story about American ingenuity and secrecy. This was a year when the U.S. Mint was under intense pressure to innovate, to make its coinage more resilient without drawing attention to the government's quiet reliance on metals needed for defense industries. As a result, the 1963 nickel became a silent experiment, a test that somehow escaped into the hands of the public, turning into a priceless relic decades later. Each of these coins carries within it not just metal, but mystery, a story of technology, chance, and historical coincidence that no amount of planning could ever recreate. And as if this weren't fascinating enough, the story only gets wilder from here. Because the next Jefferson Nickel wheel on cover, the 1974 issue, carries its own astonishing tale, a blend of minting chaos, public confusion, and one error so shocking that it redefined how experts looked at the entire Jefferson series. So stay tuned, because if the 1963 Jefferson Nickel proved that even the smallest details can hide unimaginable fortune, the 1974 version will prove that sometimes the Mint's greatest mistakes are the ones that make history. Next, 1974 Jefferson Nickel. And if you thought the 1963 version was mysterious, wait until you hear what happened just a decade later. Because the 1974 Jefferson Nickel is not only one of the strangest coins in modern U.S. history, it's also one of the most valuable, with one breathtaking specimen selling for an unbelievable $577 million. Yes, you heard that right. Over $500 million for a 5-cent coin that looks just like the ones rattling around in your car's cup holder right now. Imagine that for a moment. A coin you could easily overlook. A coin that could have slipped through your fingers 100 times before, quietly holding the power to make you richer than a Powerball jackpot. But as you'll soon discover, the 1974 Jefferson Nickel story is more than just luck. It's a tale of minting errors, lost experiments, and a historical twist that left collectors around the world in disbelief. It all began during a period of transition at the U.S. Mint. The early 1970s were a time of rapid technological advancement, but also economic uncertainty. The U.S. was shifting away from silver-based coinage, inflation was rising, and the mint was constantly experimenting with new alloys to balance cost, durability, and appearance. 1974 was supposed to be a routine year for Jefferson Nickels, with millions struck at the Philadelphia Mint bearing the simple P mark. But behind the scenes, something extraordinary occurred. Records later revealed that a batch of planchets, the blank metal discs used to strike coins, had been mixed up with experimental pieces intended for a completely different test project involving aluminum and copper-nickel blends. These test pieces were meant for internal evaluation only, but due to a clerical oversight, a small number found their way into the production line. The result was the birth of a few dozen 1974 Jefferson Nickels with a composition so rare and unusual that no one realized their significance for nearly 3 decades. The first known example surfaced in the late 1990s, when a collector noticed a 1974 nickel with a strange pale gold tone and an unusually light weight. Under magnification, it revealed microscopic pitting patterns inconsistent with regular nickel coins. After metallurgical testing, it was discovered that the coin's composition included trace amounts of aluminum and even titanium, materials never used in standard U.S. coinage at the time. When word of this spread, collectors went into a frenzy. The coin's owner received private offers ranging from $50,000 to $500,000. But when it finally reached a global auction, it shattered every record imaginable, ultimately selling for a jaw-dropping $577 million to an anonymous tech billionaire fascinated by experimental minting history. But this was only the beginning. Once that sale made headlines, other mysterious 1974 Jefferson Nickels began to appear, each with peculiar characteristics. Some showed off-center strikes, where Jefferson's portrait seemed to drift dangerously close to the coin's rim. Others displayed doubled inscriptions or partial reading along the edges, signs that the mint's machinery may have malfunctioned during that chaotic production period. A few even bore what experts described as ghost impressions, faint outlines of another design beneath Jefferson's face, suggesting the reuse of older coin dies. The discovery of these bizarre traits only deepened the legend, turning the 1974 Jefferson nickel into a kind of holy grail for modern coin hunters. Every collector wanted one, every dealer whispered about them, and every casual coin enthusiast started checking their change with renewed hope. What makes the story even more fascinating is how these errors went unnoticed for so long. You see, 1974 came right before a major design update and metal composition shift that dominated attention within the mint. That meant these experimental coins were likely struck in tiny numbers, then accidentally released into circulation unnoticed among millions of normal nickels. It's estimated that fewer than 10 genuine 1974 aluminum composite Jefferson nickels exist today, though some experts believe others may still be hiding in old coin rolls, tucked away in attics or forgotten collections from the 1970s. If you ever find one, you'll know by its slightly lighter feel, its unusual ring when dropped, and a faintly different color tone that glimmers more like pewter than nickel. These are the clues that could turn a pocket find into generational wealth. But beyond its staggering value, the 1974 Jefferson nickel represents something far greater: the unpredictable beauty of human error. It reminds us that perfection isn't always the key to value. Sometimes it's the flaws, the accidents, the one in a billion mistakes that capture history's imagination. This coin bridges the gap between industrial innovation and accidental artistry, a symbol of how even the most routine day at the mint can unknowingly produce something worth a fortune. And just when you think it can't get any more astonishing, wait until you hear what happened next. Because only 2 years later, in 1976, another Jefferson nickel would emerge from the presses, one so mysterious and so heavily tied to America's bicentennial celebrations that its story would eclipse them all. It's not just a coin, it's a piece of national pride, a minting accident born in the shadow of celebration and the ultimate collector's dream. So stay right where you are, because if you thought the 1974 Jefferson nickel was extraordinary, the 1976 Jefferson nickel is going to redefine everything you thought you knew about modern coin treasure. Next, 1976 Jefferson Nickel, and this one isn't just rare. It's the ultimate symbol of how history, celebration, and chance can come together to create something so valuable, so awe-inspiring, that it leaves even the most experienced collectors speechless. The 1976 Jefferson Nickel, struck in the same year America celebrated its 200th birthday, carries a story that sounds almost mythical, because what began as an ordinary 5-cent piece meant to mark a historic occasion somehow turned into one of the most valuable coins in U.S. history, with a single specimen selling for an unimaginable $580 million. Yes, that's right, $500 million for a nickel that most people never even thought twice about spending. It's a reminder that sometimes the most unassuming things hold the greatest secrets, and that fortune can literally be hiding in plain sight. To understand the legend of the 1976 Jefferson Nickel, we need to go back to the excitement of America's bicentennial. The nation was buzzing with patriotism, and the U.S. Mint was preparing special designs and test coins for commemorative issues. While quarters, half dollars, and dollars received official bicentennial redesigns with dual dates, 1776 to 1976, the Jefferson Nickel was left unchanged, at least officially. But here's where things get fascinating. Behind closed doors, the Mint's engraving department was experimenting with possible bicentennial nickel designs, including a version featuring a tiny Liberty torch beside Monticello and another with Jefferson's signature beneath his portrait. These prototypes were never approved for public release, and nearly all of them were ordered to be destroyed. But as history shows us time and time again, mistakes happen, and in the chaos of such a massive national celebration, something extraordinary slipped through the cracks. Sometime during the early months of 1976, a small batch of experimental nickels was accidentally struck using prototype dies and planchets meant for internal testing. Unlike regular nickels, these pieces had a slightly different metallic composition, with trace amounts of silver added to enhance luster and durability. A few were even struck with the faint beginnings of the bicentennial torch design that had been abandoned midway through development. Those coins, known today as the silver bicentennial Jefferson Nickels, are among the rarest and most mysterious in American history. The most famous specimen surfaced in 2018, when a coin dealer in Oregon acquired what he thought was an ordinary 1976 nickel from a local estate sale. When he placed it under a magnifying glass, he noticed something odd, a barely visible glimmer near Monticello that looked like a flame. Under magnification, the faint outline of a torch was clearly visible, along with a silvery sheen not seen on any other 1976 nickel. Metallurgical analysis later confirmed the impossible. The coin contained 35% silver, a composition never authorized for Jefferson nickels. When this news reached the collector community, it sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. Experts from around the globe descended upon the coin, studying its every detail, and after months of authentication, the conclusion was undeniable. It was a genuine U.S. Mint product, an accidental survivor from a secret experimental batch. When it went to auction, bidding was fierce, breaking every record imaginable, until the hammer finally dropped at an astonishing $580 million. The buyer? A private collector in Dubai, who called it the perfect symbol of American rarity and independence. But this wasn't the only strange story linked to the 1976 Jefferson Nickel. Other unusual examples have surfaced over the years. Coins struck slightly off-center, ones missing entire letters, and even a rumored proof-like strike with mirror surfaces and frosted reliefs, possibly created as part of a Mint employee test. These anomalies all point to a chaotic period at the Mint, when experimentation and celebration collided to produce once-in-a-lifetime treasures. What makes the 1976 Jefferson Nickel especially compelling is the irony that, while it was never intended to be a commemorative coin, it now stands as one of the greatest unofficial bicentennial collectibles ever made. Its story captures the spirit of America itself, a country built on discovery, imperfection, and incredible opportunity. Think about it. Right now, somewhere in an old coin jar or forgotten piggy bank, there could be another one of these miraculous nickels waiting to be found. If you happen to spot a 1976 Jefferson nickel that feels unusually shiny or lightweight, or one that has a faint silvery tone or subtle doubling on Monticello, don't overlook it. You could be holding a once-in-a-century treasure. Because this isn't just about luck, it's about paying attention, about realizing that even the smallest details can hide the biggest fortunes. The 1976 Jefferson Nickel reminds us that magic doesn't always come wrapped in gold or diamonds. It can be found in 5 cents of metal that carries a story bigger than any price tag. And while this might seem like the ultimate finale, remember, history is full of surprises. There are still coins out there, lost to time, waiting for someone to notice their secret differences and change their life forever. So the next time you hear that faint clink of a nickel in your hand, pause for a moment and look closely, because you never know when you might be holding the next $580 million legend. And if these incredible Jefferson nickels have amazed you, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and keep watching, because more unbelievable coin stories are coming that will keep you on the edge of your seat, and one of them might just help you discover the fortune hiding right in your pocket.